Hi, Heidi. How are you doing today?
Hi, Hannah. I'm doing great. And yourself?
Yeah, really good. And this is really cool to do this because you and I have spoken at so many random times of the day on this AI Fire and Forte project. And now it's amazing to be talking about the conclusion of the project, which has ended up in 40 really gorgeous avatars. And whereas we've had so many conversations throughout the process, haven't we, establishing what we need to do next?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you very much for trusting me in producing these digital avatars for you. It has been so fun for me to create this for Fire and Forte and also to learn about these amazing women that you interview. And I'm so happy that we work on this together.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you and a real learning experience as well. So for the audience, I'll briefly explain the project and how I found Heidi to help me with the project. So Fire and Forte is a podcast and project celebrating women on fire at 40 and over. My personal view of this demographic and this age point is that you're often filled with passion, with purpose, and because of life experiences, you tend to be quite strong as well and ready to actually put that passion and purpose to good use. I've been interviewing incredible women over the last year who are in their 40s and over, who are all of those things. And on the conclusion of the 40 interviews, I wanted to celebrate it with a piece of digital art that really depicted the ethos of what Fire and Forte was about. So I wrote a brief, but I must be honest, I knew who I wanted to do it because I'd seen Heidi's work for a long time. So Heidi, it'll be good if you can explain your background a bit more in a second, because I'll just say the bit that I saw of you, which was during my research around Web3, I saw that you were really active in that space. I started following you, and the art that you were publishing was really high end. It was very on the fashion end of things, and it was almost the Vogue of avatars and of digital art. It was very high end, very premium, and really alluring, and I love that luxury aspect of it. So I reached out to you to explain my project and see if you do it, and luckily you said that you would be involved, even though you've got about 6 other jobs and projects and studies that you do. But I wonder if you can explain what you were doing on LinkedIn with those pieces of art, and a little bit more about yourself and how you are doing what you're doing now.
Yes, of course. So I started working in the Web3 industry late 2021. Since then, I work in a few fintech and blockchain startups. And it was only in March last year that I found out about AI softwares where you can create AI art by inputting text. So I was just playing around with it and seeing what it does, because I've already had this creative side of mine. Since I was little, I always like to draw and paint. But then as you grow up, you don't really find the time to continue doing this. But then with AI, it was still fascinating to try and understand this new software. So I was just doing tests by myself and posting these on LinkedIn with no intention of becoming an AI artist. And people, my followers, started liking what I'm doing, and I started posting very regularly about what I'm doing. And then I started going on panels and talks, just explaining how I work with these softwares and what's my inspiration behind it. And then Hannah reached out to me, I think it was last year around November. She said she wanted to do this year, and if I would want to collaborate with her on this. And I think, first of all, without even thinking, I said, yes, I would love to work with you, because I find Fire and Forte so inspired. We can all learn from how these women achieve so much. And yes, so currently I'm doing my master's in fintech until September. So that's my main job, you could say, at the moment. I'm also doing an internship as part of my master's. Then my AI art side is my side hustle, you could say, but it is more than a side hustle now. But I actually get people asking me, oh, how do you use AI in your job? And when I say, oh no, this is not my main job, this is just my hobby. But it has been a lovely journey, just working with you, Hannah.
Excellent. You could have a few careers ahead of you. So select one carefully, or hopefully maybe all three might complement each other. So if we share the process that you and I went through and the learnings that we had, and I suppose the objective of this is to really share with people who are embarking on their own project in their personal or professional life, to make sure that they can learn from what we learned, and if we can hand over some practical, without sharing too many of your particular secrets, of course, but around how you manage an AI project of this nature. So we obviously started with what I would regard as a traditional briefing session, because I say traditional because my background is marketing, and a brief would ideally be face-to-face, talking through the inspiration, the context, the goals of the brief. We had a mood board in there, and then I introduced you just visually to each of the guests that I was hoping to create art for. So I wondered if you could take it from there. What was your process from that moment on?
First of all, I would say you were my first big project, creating 40 AI art. Previously, I only probably created a maximum of 5 AI art for one individual. So your project was a learning curve for me. So first of all, I remember asking you what was your goal with these digital avatars, and when I remember you saying to me about the NFTs, and we went through that process, how you would go on advertising those, for me to really understand what message you want to convey in these AI art. And then I remember you made some notes about each guest, because I really wanted to get inside the guest's head to understand how they think, and just to really know the personality, to really portray that in the AI art. And then I remember asking you about the style, and you picked the pink color with the cloud behind the guest. And I think the challenge was that AI art do not really give you exactly what you want. And this is where we had to keep on working together to achieve something which is constant and making the whole collection. So if I had to give an advice to someone doing this for the first time, I think it would be to really understand what AI art you want the client to produce for you, in what style, of course, and also making sure that it is looking like a whole collection. And then I would say something very important as well, to explain to your client how AI works, what it can do, what it cannot do at the very beginning, so that your client understands what the expectations from you.
I think that client might be me, that she's politely talking to. I think there are limitations, and that's okay, because at the same time as there being limitations, there are possibilities that we can explore. And I think that some of the art that came back was exceeded my expectations, because I could only put in my brief maybe what I'd seen before, and like every marketing brief, you have something in your head. It's hard to put down into paper. And what I found is that sometimes the AI it wouldn't necessarily, the prompts that you put in it, I think that's an excellent way in which that you've expressed that. But can we consistently now get that kind of look or that kind of expression on the face across 20 or 40? So I think in one of them, there was an avatar that was looking away, laughing, or certainly looking away and maybe looking cheeky. I was like, great, Heidi, just apply that to all of the faces. That's the kind of look that you want. And you had to say, it doesn't work like that. You know, you will have to put in the way that I can get certain expressions, but I can't be precise. Is that a fair enough explanation?
Yes,
around,
I think just to give a bit of context to our audience. So when I have to write a prompt for the AI to create an AI art, especially with Fire and Forte, we had quite a lot of details in terms of the color, of the background, of the hairstyle, the hair color, and if the guest was wearing glasses or not. So the color of the glasses, if she was wearing glasses, and her facial expression. We also had her outfit and what style of outfit, and also if she was walking or doing some kind of activity. So it was quite a lot of details. And as of right now in 2023, I would say that AI is still in an early stage, and giving all those details together to the AI, it was quite a lot. And for me personally, what I've noticed is when you give too many details, the AI will not be able to pick up on all of those. It would pick up, I would say, only 3/4 of those and just ignore the rest of it. And I think that's the challenge we had. It was not picking on one of the details we wanted it to create.
Yeah, I think the simple is definitely better. And the surprise for me was how realistic the images were when we got them back, because they were so similar to having a portrait done or having a photograph done. And I suppose that's one of it both exceeded my expectations and was quite difficult to manage, because some of them would really look like the guest, and that was great. And then other ones, and I know that you were using both sometimes their images that I provided or sometimes the description of personality. And a challenge that I found was, do we make them look like the person, or do we look like a person that's trying to look like this person? Because they've got blonde hair and they're kind of, stood on London Bridge looking like they're a businesswoman in London, but it doesn't actually look like this person, but it also looks really realistic. So I think that would be an expectation of this particular one, that you can make it look really realistic, but it can look like any face on the internet. It could look like a very realistic face, but be realistic around whether it looks like actually the person or a character.
Yes, I would agree with you. And of course, then it's very important for us as well to decide if we want all the avatars to be realistic or not realistic, just to keep the constant in the whole collection.
And so that's, I'll add this to the list. I mean, so far, the list that I've got is the number of artworks, because actually I was briefing a lot to you versus more curated collections that you'd created before. We've got some limitations that it's good to have that conversation at the beginning to your client. Personality is something that was really great to ask your client about what you want to convey, but I think that comes into limitations of what an AI might understand to be a strong woman. Sometimes that was tattoos and biceps, which I know more.
Yes, I remember we had quite a lot of those.
There's quite a lot of tattoos, wasn't there? We'll come on to some of those in a minute, actually. I think the number of prompts that you said is a really good point, to not make it too complicated. And consistency across a collection is something to be mindful of at the beginning of an AI project. But I wanted to ask you about the software, because what software did you choose?
So I use Midjourney, and I feel like this is the most popular one at the moment. I think it was the second AI software that was launched. Before that, there was another one called DALL-E. And then after Midjourney, we had Stable Diffusion. I've tried all of them, to be honest, but I felt like Midjourney was more my style. It created this artistic feeling in the art. And now we have so many new upcomers. I recently tried something called Argil, And it's so fascinating where you can create your own training model. And I think this is something that I would consider if I was to be working on a big project, maybe like Fire and Forte, and maybe it would be able to give me some very precise details.
So the training would be done on the job, would it? It would understand what you'd want to get out of the brief. Yeah, interesting. Now, in terms of how we and you overcame some challenges, because I think it's good to explain that there were some of the prompts would confuse the AI because it was fire. It would sometimes seem to think that maybe the people had been in a fire and were really sad. Understandable when you think you're asking a computer to do something. But then at the same time, some really great facial expressions like laughing, and it's great to create a character from nothing that was wearing a really stylish outfit and really embodied the spirit of Fire and Forte. But in terms of moving forward to solutions, we actually ended up reducing, you must have created hundreds of art where we had some of those challenges around biceps or they'd been in a fire. We then ended up editing it down to probably about 10 and then building it out again. Is there anything around that process that you would want to talk about?
I think the approach we took by choosing 10 out of those and then replicating the 10 ones was the best one, was the best solution we took into getting to the final collection. Because in a way, we chose the 10 best out of the hundreds that I made. And then according to that, what we did is only change the hair color or the outfit, or if the guest was walking or dancing or just sitting down. I think this really helped to create the whole collection. And now you look at all of those 40 images, it really looks like an NFT collection where you see different traits of each guest. With each uniqueness and personality, you could now clearly see what's different in all of them.
I must admit, I'm very proud of it. And I think it's because you and I know the work that went into this, testing and trialing. And there were some surprises along the way. So
yes, it was a long process, but we managed to get there at the end.
And I think like a broader point around that is how people work together. We're on other sides of the world. Communication is really important, whether it's emails, whether it's calls. I think the fact that we've never met each other face to face, but to actually really know that you're both trying to do the right thing, because you were very professional. I was really wanting to get an end outcome. And I think as we move into this world where we're working, people that are not very close to AI are working with people that are more close to AI, being really great communicators, very respectful throughout the process. And also, I think we both had to get our heads together around problem solving, and those things are critical working together, I think, as well.
Yes, I think communication is the greatest point to be noted here, especially, like you said, we are on both sides of the world, and with the time difference as well. It was very hard for us to communicate. When you were sleeping, I was awake, and when I was sleeping, you were awake. I remember sending you emails just before I go to bed, and then you would reply to me at 6 in the morning at my time, but it was when you were waking up. But yes, I think both of us remain professional, and we really understand that both of us are making our best to create this project together. And I think it's very nice, like you said, that's a very good point. Some people might be very aware of how AI works and some might not. So it's very important to find the balance between those, so that everyone can understand the possibilities and challenges.
And there's 20 years between us. And I think that's the more that we can find more relationships like that at work, the more that we'll create really great work, because everyone comes with their own knowledge and experience.
Exactly. I feel like you brought in your knowledge from marketing, and of course, your 20+ experience, and I brought in my knowledge of AI. So it was a great combination.
And we met somewhere in the middle. Our combined age
Yes.
is 30. Yeah, that's the average age. Now, I wanted to just bring up the topic of bias, because I think lots of people who are maybe not as close to AI, but are certainly reading about it, have got the impression that it's filled with bias. And I've got a view on this based on this experience. I wondered what you thought around, based on your firsthand experience.
I've had a lot of conversations about this. People, first of all, do not believe that AI images are even a piece of art. They just would not want to, they think that because you're not drawing something with your hand or on a digital software, just typing in words, or when you're getting a picture, it's very easy for you. But it's not that easy. Like, I'm sure you found out during the process, because yes, you might be only typing in words, but you have to know which words to put in correctly, especially when you want the AI to create a very precise image. If you want a very open image, you do not care how it looks like, then yes, of course, you can just type in any words. But I think when creating images with AI, it is really an art just by putting in this prompt and understand what the AI understand and how you can edit that prompt. I think this is the future in AI art, the prompt engineering. And I think this is something that people do not understand, especially if they have not used AI before. And I think we should include AI now in the education system, so that our young generation grows with that from the beginning. I see AI as a tool and not as something which is coming for your work as an artist.
And that's a really great point. I think as well, art is, there's people that can hold paintbrushes, and there are creative people that can express or explain something and be creative, but be rubbish practically with a paintbrush or as a graphic designer. So it's allowing different creative people to create art in a different way. It's not replacing the traditional artists, I would say. And from a
so if I were to take my own example, I know how to paint as well with paintbrushes, and so I can do both. So this summer I really wanted to get back into painting, so I bought new paintbrush and new paint colors just to get me excited about it. But to be honest with you, I haven't had the time yet to do it. So I would say painting for me, I love doing it, but it is more time consuming, and AI helps me to stay with that creative side of me, but it is quicker in a way, I would say. And of course, it is a new thing. So I really like to really understand how it's working, just to get the best out of it.
Well, also what you enjoy seeing how this works. And from a representation point of view around diversity, did you find anything interesting with this around how the software that you used would interpret a woman that was over 40, any aging or ethnic sort of looks that you'd find? Anything that you thought, oh gosh, why is it decided that this is what a 40-year-old woman looks like?
Well, I noticed that the AI, when I was putting the age of 40, the AI tend to create a lady maybe who is quite a bit fat. I don't know if you remember.
I mean, some of them at first were, a little bit, didn't look healthy.
Yes, I think that's the best way to put it. They were not very healthy. And so I had to tweak that. I think, and then I removed the part about 40-year-old. So then I used a mature lady. Then it was very different. So it was giving us the kind of images that we were looking for. And I would say that would be when I had put a 40-year-old in the prompt. And in terms of different ethnicities, which we had quite a lot in your list of guests, I think it picked up on that quite well.
Yeah.
With the hair as well, I noticed that the hair would change according to the ethnicity. Sometimes I would not put the exact details of the hair that I would want it to be, and it would already connect that to the ethnicity, which I liked about it. So that means AI is smart. And then yeah, I think that was about it. Yeah, the 40-year-old and the different ethnicities we worked on.
Interesting. There was a yoga one, which I remember thinking, oh my gosh, why have they come out as elderly as opposed to this healthy 49-year-old that I'd interviewed? I did think there was one thing that we had a good laugh about, which was there was at one phase quite a lot of big breasts that were coming out.
Oh, yes.
Which was just on the odd
that.
one. I was like, I don't know if it's midlife. There would just be a few that I'd go, why are their boobs so big? I mean, that was odd, wasn't it?
Yes, that was very funny.
I mean, there wasn't many, I'll be honest, but I think that there's certainly, I think for anyone that hasn't done the work on, done a project like this, reading a lot of headlines, there is some bias that exists. I think from what Heidi's talked to and some of there are some things that are a bit unpredictable. I wouldn't think it's as bad as what everybody thinks. And I'd also take a proactive step into this, which is that the internet is full of old images, the way society looked or represented itself 20 years ago. So we're all building this new AI at the moment, and projects like this create more and more, I'd like to think, realistic images, and we're continually educating it, especially with the prompts that you ask as well. I mean, do you end up, when you put in a prompt, do you end up approving a certain artwork? Does it almost know which artwork has been accepted and which ones haven't?
No, there's not that a particular step, but I think there's a button where you, as a feedback, and you can say if it gave you what you wanted or not, and then it would go back to the management team. They will review that just so that they can improve on your feedback, which I think is very interesting.
That's great. And also I know that you're working on an Adobe beta at one point, which would be the same thing. That was cool.
Adobe has created such an amazing AI. I wonder, I think it is still in the beta version, but I think in a few months, it might even be better than Midjourney. But let's see.
Oh my gosh, you've heard it here first. Well, Heidi, thank you so much for working with me on this project, for joining me in this conversation. And I'm hoping that, yeah, Fire and Forte 2.0 does include you as well. I'm going to ask you overall what you think your what you think the future holds for AI art, and also what you're most excited about personally.
I am most excited about, so there's an AI that has always been on my mind, and it's not there yet. I always thought about, if you were to upload your own image, let's say something I draw with my hand, and then I were to upload that in an AI, then the AI could pick up on your style and then create other images according to that. It is not out there yet, but I'm very excited to see who is going to create that. And that would be so fascinating, because I feel like now in the society, people are more interested how they think that AI are copying other artists' style. So I think if we had that option of uploading our own style, that would really help for AI, for people to accept AI art specifically. And if I were to say what about the future of AI art, I think it would be a great tool for all the artists, all graphic designers. For example, where I'm working right now, the graphic designer itself. So what it does, it goes to Midjourney, and it makes them create images what they want, and then we would upload that and then tweak the color or tweak the size of that. So it really helps graphic designers as a starting point. So I think AI will be in our everyday lives. It could be for anyone, especially for marketing people, in creating images for social media. So I see AI as a very big tool, which will be helpful for anyone. It does not have to mean an artist. Yes, I think it will be something that we use in our everyday lives.
It's a great perspective that actually it makes you better at your job, and the sooner that you adopt it, the more that you can find creative ways to use it and do your job even better, like as a graphic designer, like you say. And I think that's been my experience working with you, is that I want to express my Fire and Forte brand in a modern way. And for anyone else looking at similar projects, this is the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be so many ways that you continue to express a brand and engage with customers and or whoever the end consumer is. But good communication between everyone to make the most of AI. AI cannot replace good communication between the people working on it. And I think that's been a great big learning between us. Yeah, so thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you so much, Hannah. It was lovely having this conversation with you. And I really hope our audience will feel the same. And I can't wait for everyone to see our digital avatars.
Roll on Fire and Forte 1.0 and 2.0.
Yes, very soon.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.